What does a series of children's books during the 1980s and 1990s have to do with today's frictionless omnichannel retailing environment? If you've consumed enough of my content by now, you know that I tend to look for historical linkages or maybe some root causes that can explain some of the current trends in consumer behavior. Now, one of those consumer behavioral trends that have kind of shot up and been more important because of the COVID-19 effect is that consumers expect retailers to be omnipresent. These consumers expect to be able to kind of seamlessly jump between the channels, but also still be able to enjoy a unified shopping experience. But what exactly does this have to do with a retro children's book series? Choose Your Own Adventure was a series of children's books where each story is written from a second person point of view, where the reader assuming the role of the protagonist and making choices that determine the main character's actions and plot's outcome. The series was based on a concept created by Edward Packard. Choose Your Own Adventure was one of the most popular styles of children's books during the 1980s and 1990s, with selling over 250 million copies. It was so popular that a ton of copycats came out, so that number is probably well over 300 million copies. And the Choose Your Own Adventure series popularity led to the genre of writing getting an official title called the game book. And you can still see today in media how some of the influences are still being played out, but with a different kind of technology layer. Netflix launched Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which was an adventure style film where the person consuming that media could actually make decisions that led to much different endings. And they also had another kind of TV show series with Bear Grylls called You vs. Wild. Now, if you think about the 1980s and 1990s, the generation that popped out of that time period was the millennial generation because they were defined as anyone born between 1980 to 1995. Millennials have been influenced by Choose Your Own Adventure, and it's playing out in the consumer market today. This is a key insight because there's about 80 million millennials within the US market. They now have the largest spending power of any generation. And kind of furthermore, over the next decade, millennials are expected to inherit about 68 trillion, yes, with a T, trillion dollars from their baby boomer and early Gen X parents, which would make them the most wealthy generation in American history. This puts millennials in the driver's seat to fundamentally shift all of the consumer market. So it's increasingly important to pay attention to what they are doing to take advantage of it today, but also to understand what implications it could have for the future. Now, thinking about the Choose Your Own Adventure books, you think about maybe how much millennials read during that time because of the popularity of these books. I think that millennials read more because they were put into the driver's seat. They made choices, so they read more. Now, I want to kind of say that sentence again, but I want to change one word that had two occurrences within that sentence. So, millennials shop more because they're put in the driver's seat. They made choices, so they shop more, which makes me fully believe that we are living in the era of choose your own adventure shopping experience. And that choose your own adventure shopping experience could really be defined as the omni-channel frictionless retail approach to commerce that focuses on providing shoppers with a unified experience across digital and physical channels, from browsing to order fulfillment. Omnichannel retail is based on the premise that integrating multiple touchpoints adds extra value and is greater than the sum of the parts. There's no one size fits all omni-channel retailing strategy, just like there's not a one size fits all consumer. Now, there probably has never been a one size fits all consumer, but until recently, with technology changing the power from the brand side, be that on the retail or the consumer side, now over to this consumer. Now the consumer can actually ask and kind of want to have a personalized experience that is dictated around their wants and needs. Consumers no longer need to opt into the legacy business models of retail where you had to go to a physical location during certain times. You were the default picker, the default packer. You had to actually drive that piece of inventory back to your house. You did all of that and you didn't really get any benefit or any price breaks or any of those types of things. And then now you have a ton more options in the market. You can actually look and kind of price out hiring that job for a laborer and having somebody else do some of those jobs for you. Customers today have a shopping experience that they can decide different variables like what, where, how, when, and who they decide to shop with and kind of interchange all of those different variables to create an infinite types of combinations. They can really have whatever experience they would like. This is the definition of choose your own adventure, kind of times 10 with technology added to it. And as I mentioned, this omni-channel, frictionless, unified shopping experience has really jumped up over the COVID-19 effect period. And actually, since 2020, there's been a huge spike in the amount of times executives of publicly traded companies during their earnings calls have mentioned the word omni-channel in the context of retail. And this is likely due to maybe three main reasons. First is that 85% of consumers now actually interface with brands, be that consumer brands or retail brands, through an omni-channel experience. Secondly, the COVID-19 effect not only amplified the importance of this choose your own adventure shopping experience, but you also had some increased kind of variables that happened around maybe health, and that increased the optionality importance. It also kind of further kind of split America up from the people that were fortunate enough to actually pay somebody else to take on those health risks, do some of that shopping for them, actually hire a laborer. So, further kind of exacerbation of the servant problem that has been happening and is kind of the downside or the dark side of a lot of what's happening in the 15-minute or less get the products in your hand. But that's for another video and that's for another thought. I don't want to go off too far on a tangent there, but more than likely, the reason why the omni-channel retail words in conjunction with each other on publicly traded companies' earnings calls is because the omni-channel shopper actually has been proven through data over time to spend more than a single channel shopper. So why is this all important? Why am I bringing this up? I think firstly, thinking about just the legacy models of business on the retail side or just consumer brand side, that period of time has been shut. As a brand, retailer, or consumer brand, you must now have a mindset that places the consumer at the center of a flexible, almost choose your own adventure consumerism whenever and however he or she desires it. This should allow for the reimagination of commerce, and technology will be at the center of this revolution. Now, just kind of want to end on how this influences the future. Challenges notwithstanding, the frictionless omni-channel retailing experience is not going away anytime soon. This is more than a trend. This actually speaks to the lifestyle of consumers today. And the brands, retailers or consumer brands, need to really take that into account and understand what that means to them. Just like the Choose Your Own Adventure books, alternate paths to the shopping journey speaks to the desire of control that consumers seek. Choice has become increasingly important during the era of personalization. The future will be rich with personalized products, one-to-one marketing, infinite ways to communicate with customer service, and the type of loyalty programs that will truly make each one of us feel like special snowflakes. And for all of that, I guess we can thank Edward Packard. I hope you guys enjoyed this piece of content. If you have any questions about anything that was mentioned in this YouTube video, please leave a comment down below or reach out to me on any of my social media accounts.